This is the first annual Gashimov Memorial in memory of Grandmaster Gashimov, who passed away recently. This is the first edition, 2014. Great loss to the chess world and to the human world as well, both. He was a really good guy and a great chess talent. He will be missed. It's funny, the good ones seem to go first. Oh well. Hikaru Nakamura from the United States. World-class player, former U.S. champion, number 8 in the world, versus his nemesis, Magnus Carlsen from Norway, current number 1 rated in the world and current world champion. When these guys play, it's always a good game. Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Another classic matchup. My buddy Hikaru Nakamura from the United States is white. Magnus Carlsen from Norway, current world champion. These guys always have great games. They're pretty good rivals on the board. Let's get to it. Round 7, Gashimov Memorial. It's going to be a Nimzo Indian. C3, B4, F3. Now, Carl tried this before against the Nimzo Indian against Carlsen. Let's see how it works out. Normally it would go knight F3 and then C5, kind of like a Benoni setup. After F3, he goes C5 anyway, and then D5. Castles. I think maybe Magnus could have waited on the castles. It does say that the number 1 computer move is castle. Now it's kind of edging down a little bit. All 3 of the top moves are all basically the same score. D6 and E takes are the 2 best. Maybe you should have waited a little bit. It's not an error. This might be a small inaccuracy. E5, D6, Bishop D2. Right now, Magnus has over a point advantage on the computer. I don't agree with that. I like white's position a lot. It's got a lot of space. Knight D5. I think maybe E takes D5 might have been a little bit more accurate. I'm using the computer now. I'm only a 1600 rated player, but we're talking about some of the 2 best players in the world and the highest rated player in the world and current world champion. Knight D5. The 2 choices in the computer, knight to F4, knight to G3. Hikaru decides knight to G3, and then E takes. C takes. It's going back and forth. I like the position for white. I really do. His late squared bishop has got a lot of scope. He's got a lot of space in the center. We'll see how this works out. Bishop A3. Now, when you're playing with guys that are this good and this capable and this strong, every little tiny inaccuracy builds up. Queen of C2 was the preferred move, but a close second was A3. Now later you're going to see it makes this square here a little weak. Bishop A5, he backs off, and he goes bishop to E2. B5, he wants to push. He wants to push the pawn to C4. He wants to get it rolling and basically screw up the queen side and get some action and get that A-pawn rolling down there. I think C4 and bishop D3 were 2 computer suggestions. After B5, white finally castles, and then C4 comes. Bishop D3, good move, keep control. He wants to trade. Brings the queen up. Magnus decides to go rook to B8. Now, the number 1 move on the computer, believe it or not, and this I wouldn't have pulled out anywhere, is here. Pawn to H5. Interesting move. Or pawn to H6. I don't know. Computers don't think, they just calculate. Rook to B8. That brought down, now it's a tiny advantage for black, just about even. Knight to D1. Oh, that was an excellent move. Now, oddly enough, it's not one of the computer suggestions, but I thought it was an excellent move. If bishop takes, knight takes, And you got two knights hitting the square here. I thought that was an excellent move. A4 was a suggestion of the computer, and then A6. After knight to D1, bishop to C8, king to H1. Get that king right off the diagonal. I thought that was a good move. Computer wanted to play A4, but I like the king to H1 move. Knight, and you're going to see that's where the knight wants to go. That's the trail that the knight wants to go to. F4, excellent move. Another good move. Excuse me. Kick control of that center. Kick that knight back to G6. Hikaru is starting to take over this game. He's slowly improving his position and his pieces. Bishop takes. I think queen takes was much better. You're going to see this rook gets in a weird spot. Computer also agrees with that. Queen takes as the suggested move, and then queen to E3 for Hikaru. After rook takes, if queen had taken, give you an idea. A4, knight to C5, and I think Hikaru sits okay. After rook takes B6, knight to E3, knight to C5, bishop D1, knight to D3. Now that you usually get a knight like that protected on the 6th rank, it's usually miserable. But I don't think that knight is really doing that much. F5, kicking that knight. Knight has to go there. A4, A6. Now, we're on move 24 coming up here. And I think this is where Carl starts getting small inaccuracies. I think A takes B5 is the way to go. Then maybe bishop C2 hitting that knight. He goes knight G4. And now it's a tiny advantage to black. Hikaru was doing so well. The position was just marvelous. He's got all kinds of threats. Pawn here. He's got this knight and this knight coming in the position. He's got the queen in the future coming this way. He's got the rook here. I think he's got a good attack going. Sorry for all the arrows. Got a little carried away there. H5. Knight to F2. I think, according to the computer anyway, the best move for black is knight takes F2. And then after queen takes, put the knight back on D3. Magnus decides queen to F6. I think he wants that queen on the king side of the board. He sees an attack coming. He wants some protection. This rook is basically locked out in help. This bishop isn't really helping much right now. After knight to F2, queen takes knight to D3. I think holds the position, at least what Carlsen wants to do with it. But I still think white sits good here. Queen to F6, knight takes, queen to E3. Hikaru, now there's that rook again. It's in a bad spot. Black's going to have to lose a tempo here. And as Vladimir Kramnik says, former world champion, chess is a game of tempos. He loses a move. Knight takes pawn. Now it's starting to look good for Hikaru here. Looking very good. If A had taken instead, A takes, knight takes, queen to H6. I think would have been okay for Hikaru. Queen to H6. And he trades. Now, the computer suggests queen to D4, which I think is a good move. It's going back and forth on queen to D4 and queen takes. If queen had taken B2, in case you were wondering, F6, queen takes, bishop E2, and black's in a world of trouble right now. World of trouble. After queen to H6, he trades queens. A takes, bishop C2, hitting the knight. Knight goes back to E4. Now that's a pretty good square for that knight. If knight had taken B2 instead, after rook to F3, B4, rook to G3 check, king to H8, it's dead even. Even though it looks very menacing for black. After knight to e5, rook to a6. I can see going after the d-pawn. It's going to be tough to defend. He's got to defend it with the other rook. And this is where I think Hikaru's going to start getting passive here. He's on move 33 and he's starting to run low on time. So I think he's just playing moves he knows that are okay instead of really, really pushing the envelope. I think rook to a8 is a good move. Rook to b1. Move the king back to g1. So you want to get the king in closer so we can start moving up the board here and give some help. Hikaru goes knight to g3. He's starting to slowly lose his advantage. Rook a7, b4. Here come these pawns. Knight to e2, trying to stop. Bishop d7. Rook comes over, doubling up. Bishop b5. h3. Rook. Now he wants to push the c-pawn. And this is where Hikaru he's getting close to time control. He's on move 38. And he goes king to a2. And all his advantage is gone. After c3, Nakamura is letting him off the hook. And let's go through knight to d4. C takes. Rook to b1. What else? Rook to c4. Magnus sees his chance. He's been playing behind the whole game, or at least a great position by white, maybe even winning, but definitely way more than enough to draw. Knight takes. Rook takes. And this is where Hikaru, I think, goes wrong. According to the computer, he should have played knight takes d6. He played knight to d4. And now it's almost a 4-point advantage. If he had played that, rook to d8, rook to a2, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes. He's down 2 pawns for a knight, but he might be able to salvage this. But it's way better than what happened. After knight to d4, rook to d2, hitting the knight. Knight has to go there. Rook to e8, rook to a4, knight to d3. Those 2 pawns are just brutal. Knight takes. Knight to f2. Rook to a2. Knight to d1. Protecting the pawn again. Rook takes. What else could he have done? He's got to take the knight. Rook takes, rook takes. Rook takes b2. Rook takes e4. Knight to c6. He's down the exchange. He's trying desperately to draw. King to g7. He checks. King takes. Rook to f2. Check. King g6. Knight to d8. He's trying desperately to get his king in trouble. Black's king. Rook to e8. And Hikaru resigns. After rook to e8, knight to c6, and rook takes, and he's down the exchange and a pawn. White's doom. I think Hikaru had him. He's got some kind of mental block, I think, against Carlsen by never beating him. I think he's more than capable of doing it. In the last 3 games, especially the one in Zurich, he had a completely one position, and he missed. I think he had a very good position against Carlsen this tournament. The first time they played, he had Carlsen at least back on his heels in this, and it didn't happen. Anyway, folks, that's the game of the day today. Carl, he'll get it together. He's more than capable enough. He'll eventually get him, and I think Carl's got a shot, at least, to be the World Championship challenger. We'll see how it works out. I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.